Alright, hello everyone, it's Ruby. I'm gonna do another ping real quick. Okay. Okay, so I might have a phone call in like 10-ish minutes, but I figured I would just get it started. I might take a break just to take the phone call, based on like in between some things. And so I'm expecting a call from someone. I won't get into the details yet, but it's like work related. Well, stuff that transpired in like the past like few days. Um, Actually, stuff that transpired in like the past like 24 hours. But yeah. Anyways, not gonna get into that. Not yet. But quiet on set. Okay. So we just watched episode 5, which was really just interviews, so I'm not actually sure why it had to be another episode. I think it would have been better to do it outside of the docuseries. I think because the environment is very biased, probably scripted, like probably pre-prepped. It feels a little weird. Like whenever you do like behind the scenes or like extra stuff, it always feels a little weird because people kind of know that, yeah, it's probably scripted, or at least it's probably like pre-prepped. And I think one of the biggest issues is that that interviewer was horrible. I don't know if it was the interviewer or just like the questions that were prepped. But to me, it didn't really get much information other than like a how you doing kind of thing. Like it never really got into like the details of like how this trauma affected them, how we can prevent it, like how can we, like, for example, there is a moment in the docu-series where she's talking to Drake Bell, and he says that I've like done some things that I need to be held accountable for. And if this was an actual interview, like something that wasn't like pre-prepped, the next logical step would be to ask what he's referring to, right? Now, I think we all know what he's referring to, but because it's a protected environment, and I think also because they don't want to take away from Drake's story, they didn't ask him the question. Because even if they did ask him, it doesn't mean that he has to like admit guilt or anything. He could have actually clarified what he meant by like taking accountability and what he meant of what that looked like, or even talked about his experience about being in a courtroom himself, being on the other side of it. That is something that I think would have been very important to talk about, is like, what was it like being on the other side where like Brian was standing and being asked these questions that probably Brian was asked. Like, or something related to the cycle of predatory behavior. If you don't want to necessarily bring that up, you could be like, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could have taken that. None of which she chose. She just kind of just left it hanging there. And I also don't really know why this was its own episode, because that's just something that I think would have felt better like on its own. This I'm sorry I have to say this, but this felt like the Dan Schneider interview. The one that he was apologizing, because it felt like there was a very biased room full of biased people asking questions that were already kind of being prepped before. It did feel like, I think that's why we felt it weird, because we watched it in the Discord server and we felt a little weird about it. I think it's because it felt the same way that the Dan Schneider interview felt. It felt like this was like very biased parties. They weren't really getting into the questions. They weren't really getting into the stories. We weren't really learning anything new that wasn't already addressed in the docuseries. Now I get kind of what this was. It was kind of like just checking in with the actors and everything. And like how people felt after the Quiet on Set like aired. But I think that there weren't enough questions to really warrant its own episode. And I think anyone else outside of the series could have done questions better. Like, they could have asked, like, about Drake Bell. Like, what did he mean by taking accountability? What exactly was he referring to? Because you also have to assume not everyone watching the docuseries is going to know that Drake Bell pled guilty to harming a minor, or whatever the actual term was, but I mean, he did. It's not like it's an allegation. It's not like it's something that wasn't addressed. It's not like it was something that was in the middle of being tried on. I mean, I don't imagine that it was filmed that early, because I mean, this is supposed to be taking place after the docuseries aired. So obviously that wouldn't be like that like the court case would have taken place well before they filmed this episode. Now, I can see a reality in which Drake Bell only kind of agreed to do this this docuseries if they didn't bring it up. I can kind of see that, because there could have also been a thing where, yeah, someone approached him, they asked to share a story, but they also asked to include that, referring to that court case. And I kind of understand that in the docuseries that is supposed to be your redemption arc, you don't necessarily want to bring up the past that you're guilty of. I can kind of understand that. I do think it's a little bit strange, because they like almost touch on it, and I thought they were actually going to go there. I thought maybe, this is going to be where they actually bring up the court case, and they're going to talk about it and talk about what Drake Bell even thinks about that. Like, because we really don't know, other than the small statements that he said. This was actually probably a good opportunity for Drake to share his side of the accusations. Like, explaining, like, what did he mean by, like, he only pled guilty because he wanted to get a lesser jail time. Like, what did he mean by that? I think it's hard to trust a source that is coming from the source itself. That's why we were all kind of weirded out by Dan basically having his own interview on his channel by his co-star. And I think it's weird having it in the docuseries where you can't have that raw reaction and raw like feedback. I do agree that kind of anyone else could have probably done a better interview. Like, have Trisha Paytas. I think the important thing when the most important thing in an interview, if it's not scripted, if it's not like pre-planned, is that it's coming from a third party. Someone who is not biased. Someone who is able to kind of like weed their way around the subjects, get into what the interviewee is talking about, and they might not be familiar with what they're talking about, but they're able to kind of probe those questions and kind of get those answers without fishing for an answer either. Because I don't think fishing for an answer is right. I don't think you should be like, "Hey Drake, like remember the court case? That what was that about?" Like, no, I don't think that's how you address it. I think you just more so when he brings up the fact that he's wanted to take accountability, you ask, "Oh, how are you taking accountability? Like, what does that look like for you?" Like, it doesn't even have to be referring to the court case itself. It could just be just referring to what he's asking. uh, mm-hmm. Well, actually, I can join. I mean, I can join the. I think what I'll do is I'll wait for the phone call because I just don't want to be interrupted. But after that, I'll join the voice chat and you can hop on. Um, but yeah, I think interview 101. Third party, no biased, someone who can delve into the questions that are being answered. And I also think that like it is kind of weird the timing of everything. Like docuseries drops. Dan's interview immediately, immediately drops. And now immediately they're addressing his interview. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but it is kind of like weird timing. um, and I don't know why it's weird, but maybe it's just that. I mean, I don't know how this filming of the docuseries worked. Like when they filmed these interviews. I mean, yes, they obviously had to wait for the interviews, the docuseries to go live. But I think what happened. Okay, 1 second. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Um, there's a there's a long explanation as to what that phone call was about, but I think I should probably just share that in the Discord rather than say it on on the live stream. Because it's a lot, and I don't have like an hour to explain exactly like what's been going on. It's nothing bad, but it's just bullshit. um, and I was talking with a colleague and explaining exactly everything that's been going on because she's also been having like problems. It's a lot. But we'll get back to the actual topic, which was quiet on set. Right, I remember. Quiet on set. Yeah. I know we were talking about kind of the interview. It's always weird when there's like extra content, and one of it is like an interview about the thing that they were talking about, and it's in the docuseries or it's in the series that it is about, like, because you know it's scripted, you know it's like it's just Hollywood 101 or like interview 101. If you're doing something that is going to be like official or something like that, it's always pre-prepped, pre-planned. Everyone is fully aware of the questions that are going to be asked so that they can then, prep their own answers and then type it up or like have an idea of like what they're going to say, and they can even approve like the questions or anything. And it's not like there was any disclaimer of like, oh yeah, these people weren't prepped on the questions or anything. So it was very clear in the interview that yeah, the questions were definitely prepped. They definitely knew what was coming, which I mean makes sense for a docuseries. I think that's also why it's always strange, because you know that they already know what's been going to be asked. I'm sure Drake Bell already knew what was going to be asked. And the problem with that is that when you're looking for a raw interview, when you're looking for raw information, maybe I should actually explain what that phone call was about. Maybe later in the stream. It is crazy, but I also think, no, I shouldn't say it on live. No, never mind. It's a lot of details that actually might actually be useful later on, so maybe not broadcasting it across the internet. I don't know how to look at Quiet on Set as a docuseries. I think that it did a good job on I did a good job on covering a lot of topics, especially topics regarding Dan and the people involved. But I think it also kind of lacked some information. Like from episode 4, that was the last episode before this. I felt like there should have been more information, like especially about Jeanette, because we all know that she's tied. I understand if she didn't want to participate. I think she was asked. It just didn't align with her schedule. I believe she did ask. I believe she was someone that they had approached and it just didn't work with the schedule. So that's why she's not a part of Quiet on Set or something like that. But I do think there was an opportunity to dig deeper into the subject, and I don't think Quiet on Set did that. Especially regarding Dan. Like, I know a lot of the topic was focused on those with criminal charges, and that's good. That is good. But I think when we came back to Dan, it wasn't as much of a hit as it could have been or should have been. Like, there's a lot of things that Dan has done that has not gone checked yet. Like, a lot of things that he's just accused of that has come forward about him from many child stars. Many. or workers, even things that were not touched at all in the docuseries. And I think, in a way, especially when you have so many eyes on this docuseries, there's a responsibility to address it, to address those things, to address everything. I mean, they barely touched on Amanda Bynes. I understand that Amanda Bynes didn't want to, like, share exactly what happened. I understand that. She has every right to. She doesn't owe us anything. Survivors never owe their stories. But I also think we know enough already in the public eyes that it could have gone deeper. And I also know that, yeah, Dan declined to interview. No question as to why they declined. But I also think it would have been important to kind of delve into Disney. I understand that... I understand this was focused on Nickelodeon, and maybe they didn't want to risk a Disney lawsuit. But they literally talked about how Brian Peck was hired by Disney, and he's working on kids shows, and he worked on Sweet Life and Zack and Cody. And I felt like that was an opportunity to kind of pivot to the Disney stars that have gone through things. Because it's not like Disney is innocent at all. Oh, no. Like, the stereotype of a Disney star is that they go crazy, insane, drugs, doing all this and that. Like, literally, that's like the stereotype of a Disney star. You know, Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, like there was this joke that every Disney star would at some point smoke. Like, I'm sure if we looked at Disney Channel, there would be things related to that as well. I'm 100% sure. Absolutely. Because, like, literally look at the stars that were produced. And people forget who is involved with Disney. There's a long list of people that is involved with Disney that went through drug episodes, and we need to look at that too. Even if nothing of that nature happened, we can still talk about the drugs. Absolutely. Like, I've actually watched a docuseries. Well, I think it was a documentary, actually. But it was about Whitney Houston. And if you know about Whitney Houston and how she, you know, there was a lot of information that was just shocking. It wasn't anything like, it wasn't like the movie. Like, no, it wasn't the movie. But it was actual, like, documentary that kind of went into the stuff she took. The snow, I guess. I don't know how to say this without getting demonetized. But, but, you know, they talked about that. And how readily available it was. And still is. How they literally had, like, rooms dedicated to doing that. And I think that would be an important topic to talk about, like, to reiterate again. Because it's not just the behavior on set. It's also the behavior offset that sets this narrative that predators take advantage of. And the fact that you have these substances, like, circling around the industry. Like, obviously we know now that there is a huge problem with everyone on the streets and the things that are happening with the certain drug that starts with an F. And that used to be a different drug. And used to be another drug. Like, there's this very big problem of not being able to fix the substance problem. And I think also that is a big contributor to all of this that we're seeing. I mean, I know it is, because when you're on that stuff, you're more inclined to do things that you would not normally do. You're not thinking straight. You're not in the right mindset. You're not in the mindset of someone who's like, yeah, that would be wrong to do. No. And in fact, a lot of these people take these things to get away from that mindset so that they can only focus on what they crave the most. I mean, it's like the reason why there's a certain drug that focuses on downstairs. Actually multiple drugs, but the one that I was thinking of. And I mean, there is the professional medical reason as to why those things are necessary, but unfortunately not everyone uses it for a professional medical way. And we also should talk about probably how the ones who didn't end up in that situation, why did they end up not actually going down that same pipeline? What stopped them from doing so? I mean, off the top of my head, the only people that can really think of that was generally like non-controversial and I don't think went through a thing was like Selena and Miranda. That's the fact that I can only think of like a couple of people that have like gone straight through, like haven't had like an issue. That actually speaks louder than words, because most of the people who have gone through that have gone through an episode of something. And that's shocking if you think about it. Like out of the tens, the hundreds of child stars that have been produced, only a couple ended up escaping the cycle of toddler to train wreck. I guess Allison Stoner would be one of them. Like the smallest stars, some of them were actually made it through. But I'm talking about like the stars of the show. Oh, I guess Victoria Justice went through it clean. That's the funny thing, though, isn't it? The Disney stars are the ones that went off the rails, and the Nickelodeon stars, for the most part, didn't, or at least from what it looked like on the outside. Now we know that to be a little bit different, but that was actually growing up my interpretation of it. Oh, Disney is the place where everyone kind of goes crazy, whereas Nickelodeon is the place that everyone kind of turns out clean. At least for the most part. Turns out all of the networks have problems. Everyone. I mean, even Cartoon Network does have its own problems. But I mean, not to the degree of this, but other problems. It's just interesting. I think tomorrow when we do talk about the things that have been normalized in society, like the grooming that has been normalized in society. I guess technically we could also just talk about it today, but no, I think I do definitely want to keep it a separate video, especially because we're going to delve into Colleen Ballinger and everything. But you do have to kind of wonder, like, how much more is being kept from us? And I mean, like, there are open secrets. Like, I didn't mean to make that pun, but there's open information that Hollywood stars know, but don't talk about. Don't want us to know. Like, literally, the casting couch. People kind of joke about the casting couch, but it's been known for decades that the casting couch exists. Rumors. And no one's really said anything about it, except for like the Me Too movement when all that kind of finally came out. But for years, people like went through these things, knew about it, but didn't talk about it. In fact, there's a lot of secrets in Hollywood that people just don't talk about because they know not to talk about it. It's just a lot. And you kind of have to wonder what else is being hidden. Like the people that we know, the people that we idolize, the people that we are taught to idolize, like, what's up with that? What are they hiding? Are they hiding anything? And I think the more you dig, the more you'll find that every person, for the most part, in Hollywood is fucked up. Or has done something fucked up. Or has said something fucked up. One of the three, if not all of the above. From the drugs to the predatory behavior to even just being an asshole. Like, even just being a horrible person to work with. And sometimes the people that you hate the most are actually rational people. Sometimes. Because here's the thing that I've learned about Hollywood and just media in general. They pick and choose the ones that they want you to like. And sometimes you do end up with things that go against the script. But for the most part, they know how to train you to love the things that they want you to love and not question anything. Like, do you guys remember, I don't know, there was a rumor going around when I was a kid that Barney was arrested 3 times. Now, obviously that's not really true, but it does have some truth to it. There were some Barney actors that were arrested for that kind of behavior. You can look it up. There is a commonality between adults that work in kids shows that end up doing something like that. A commonality. Meaning, it's not just one person. It's a lot of people. People that can hide and don't have penalties given to them because people don't know their faces. They don't know that there's a new Barney actor. They don't know that there's a new Elmo actor. They just know that that's Elmo and that's Barney. There's no reason to believe that there is another person under that suit. They just do the same voice. So for all we know, it's the same person when it's not, in fact, the same person. In fact, the original Barney is probably in jail. Or maybe even dead. It's just how the business works. Which one is more likely? I don't know. Actually, I don't think the original Barney actor is dead. Is he? Now, I think also kind of the problem is that when you tell a kid something happens, there's this thing that tends to happen that is basically like folklore. And whenever you tell something orally, like you say something out loud, there's a good chance that the next time the person tells that story, some detail has changed. In fact, this is actually something that human nature is kind of designed to do. It doesn't matter how many times you tell the story, the same story over and over again. Something in that story is going to change. And then it changes, and then it changes, and suddenly you're convinced something has happened that didn't happen. And that does happen, unfortunately. Sometimes there's a rumor that goes around that is not true, and it goes viral, and someone gets caught under it, and it turns out they didn't even do that thing. Like, I know when the rumor that Barney was arrested 3 times, that was just genuine belief. And it turns out that as far as anyone is concerned, no Barney actor was arrested. Now, that doesn't mean that no Barney was arrested. I think it just means that maybe they were just wearing the Barney suit. And that kind of just, like, people talked about how Barney was arrested, and people thought that meant that the actual actors was arrested. But no, that's not the case. But that also happened with Steve. I don't know if you guys remember. Maybe it was just local. But there was a rumor. There's many rumors about what happened to Steve, actually. There's rumors that he died. Rumors that he, like, OD'd. Rumors that he got arrested or did something. That's also the thing that I wanted to talk about. Is that sometimes when there is a story of a harsh accusation, sometimes the story is just not true. And you do have to be careful about the details in it. For example, the New York Times, when they published the Drake Bell article, there were details in that are strictly false information. Like, it's just wrong information. And maybe some of that is true, but a lot of it is wrong. And I think that's the problem, is that people read the headlines and they don't read the body as well. And so they are quick to believe what they're told and don't know the full details. It is important to believe survivors when they come forward, but it is also important to kind of do our due diligence and follow up and kind of understand the full details of what is being said and told. Because, no, you should never doubt a survivor, but you should understand the gravity of what they're saying and what did and didn't happen. Because sometimes we hear something and we fill in the gaps. Like, for example, if a friend came up to you and was like, I broke up with my boyfriend, you're immediately thinking, oh shit, like, why? Like, what happened? And the first reaction usually, I think people usually have, is, oh, what did he do? What happened? Did he do something? Or sometimes you think like something's been happening, and so when they come forward and tell you, yeah, we broke up, you're immediately assuming that the thing that you believe is true. And there is such thing as confirmation bias, where even if someone says otherwise, we still believe the things that we believed, because we don't like to be wrong. I mean, generally, the brain just doesn't like to be wrong. Period. It is actually a very difficult thing to say sorry to apologize, to take accountability. It is a very difficult thing to ask for. That's why it's so important to do. Because when someone does, they actually have the bravery of admitting that they were wrong and apologizing. And unfortunately, that has kind of gone out the window. Now we have learned that the YouTube apology, or the apology that we should do, is to make up excuses and not take accountability. The whole, oh, I've changed, like, I've grown, like, oh, I'm not that person anymore. Or, you know, I went to therapy and I realized that that should not happen. Like, you know, the YouTube apologies, the things that they go through. I think also that's why, for example, PewDiePie has done things that he's, well, you know, but he's apologized, and his apologies are usually unique. Well, unique to the YouTube apology, because he actually never really makes excuses. He simply says, yeah, shouldn't have happened. This is, like, sorry. That's usually the context of his apologies. And generally, the internet has accepted that. Now, it doesn't mean that when someone apologizes that you have to accept their apology. No, you don't. But I think it's important that we recognize when someone does apologize and acknowledge their apology. Because that is how we teach people how to actually apologize for things. Because it's kind of like when you're taught the reason why we say sorry by your parent, by or someone who is supposed to actually be teaching you what apologizing is. Sometimes we're not told that, and that's how we end up with these weird apologies and these long-winded excuses. But usually, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was taught, like, you don't just say sorry, explain why you're sorry, what are you sorry for, like, and you might think, you know, that's just something we learn as a child. We don't actually have to do that. Like, the amount of times that I've heard that is so funny. Actually, the amount of times that I've heard, oh yeah, we did that as a kid though. That's like a child thing. Like, yeah, you realize that the reason why it's a child thing is because you're being taught how to act like an adult as a child. It doesn't even make any sense. like I've literally, like, I think there was something where, I think it was regarding, like, the whole, like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. I remember, like, saying, like, or something about manners or something. I remember saying that to someone, and they were like, yeah, but that was just something we did as a kid, or some, like, kids thing. I'm like, yeah, but if we're expecting kids to do it, shouldn't we do that too? Shouldn't we be the role models and things? Like, believe it or not, being polite doesn't stop when you turn 18. I know that is a very difficult thing to realize, but yeah, no, it's not supposed to stop when you turn 18. It's supposed to continue. And maybe that's actually the problem with society, is that we think that being nice and apologizing is for kids. I just think that ever since, what was that girl's name? The one who's, like, doing, like, the crocodile tears, the beauty influencer. You know what I'm talking about. Ever since then, the YouTube apologies have gone downhill. I think it started with a G or something. But, oh man, that's such a funny apology. That's something that we should do at some point. React to not Tati. It was well before that. It was the one that set the pace for all of them. That's something that I should do though. I shouldn't like react to like apologies and like rank them and everything. I mean, I guess we could technically do that now, but no, I won't do it now because that would be its own video or own thing. But you know, it's the girl like the ponytail. She's like hunched over her couch, like crying. Not even crying. She's like pretending to cry, and there's no tears coming out, and she's like snotted. Oh wait, maybe it starts with an L. I think it starts with an L. But I remember, I don't even remember what she was apologizing for. I think it was for some racist tweet that came out. That's usually what it is anyways, so. Oh god, what was that apology? Hang on. Laura Lee, that's what it is. Oh, I think it was because of her products or something. Right? Was that what it was for? We need, yeah. The whole, was it, wait. Oh, it was for racist tweets, yeah, okay. I should go through like the YouTube apologies. I don't know if I want to do that now though. Isn't that, I think there's like a whole like compilation of them. Well, I think actually what we'll do is when we talk about Colleen, we'll go through like a bunch of like YouTube apologies because I mean hers is the most iconic at now. Oh my god, wait. I don't know if I want to go through Colleen's apology video again. I've already done it with Adam multiple times. Adam and I are very sick of watching Colleen and her stupid ukulele, but actually it would kind of be funny to go through it as we're talking about like the grooming and everything. So I probably will bring it back up. Yeah, I have seen Jenna Marbles one. Yeah. I think Jenna Marbles and PewDiePie are probably the only ones who actually know how to apologize. I'm pretty sure those are the only ones that have actually genuinely apologized for something. And meant it. Like Felix and Jenna are the only ones who can actually apologize. What else? Is there anything else? I mean, I think I anticipated talking about more because I thought there was actually going to be like more details shared in this episode. It was kind of a nothing burger episode. I don't even know why it's an episode. It really should have just been like a bonus feature, if anything. Like it should not have been called like episode 5. It should have just been called like Quiet on Set bonus feature. Like what? Because when you call it an episode and it seems like it's being part of the doc, that makes it seem like there's like more information coming out. I think that was all. That was our expectations, right? I'm not crazy, right? Did we know that this was gonna be an interview? Did I just not pay attention to what the synopsis was? I mean, to be fair, whenever I go into something, I never look at the description or anything because I don't want to be spoiled. But I actually thought this was gonna be like an actual episode. Maybe that was my bad. Did you think that this was gonna be like actual like new things content? That's what I thought it was gonna be. I didn't think it would be like reiterating basically everything that was already said in the doc. I think Alexa did say that she wasn't going to be a part of this, like part of the new episode. But I just figured it was because they were just kind of like done with her. I didn't realize there was going to be like this. Isn't she going to do a whole episode? Isn't she going to do a whole live stream talking about this? Like, what's she going to talk about? The bad interview? uh... I mean, I do think that it's important to kind of touch again, like, on the diversity thing. I touched a little bit on it, but for those you don't know, it's not just the POC people, like, it's not just the people of color that have problems with the representation in these, like, kid shows and everything. It's also the Asians. In fact, almost like every Asian character is like racist or stereotype. Like there was this one, like, I think in the Victorious episode where the Gay Awakening song is featured. Like, take a hint. There is a Asian character in there that has a complete fake Asian accent. And he's like, it seems like he was like forced to do it. Like, it was one of like the host or something. Not the, I mean, the Chinese tiger mom Asian stereotype is also a problem, which is also part of Victorious. But the other one, the other racist stereotypical interpretation was worse. I mean, I think the one that did it cleverly, and I will always say this, is Sweet Life and Zack and Cody, because that was the point. It was the smart blonde and the dumb Asian, which I think is funny. That's funny. That is funny. That's okay. But if that's the only representation of an Asian that we have, that's kind of sad. London Tipton is the best. I don't care if she's based on a stereotype. But everything else that we've had, no. And that's only the, oh my gosh, that's only the Asians and the POC. That's not even touching on like the Latinos or or the, God forbid, other ethnicities that Hollywood tends to forget exist. Like, I kind of, it's kind of funny and also bad that people think that the only like ethnicities really are like his, like, Latino, Asian, and Black. Those are the only options that people think exist. No Middle East, no. Like, nothing else, no Greek, nothing. I think also we've kind of trained that like the white culture is just like one big culture, where it's not true at all as well. In fact, it's not even close to that. It's kind of a weird thing to say when, like, Irish people are very different from Americans, and Greeks are very different from that, and like there are differences in white people. They're not all the same. It's like there are differences in Asian people as well. It's not just China, Korean, and Japanese. Believe it or not. Yeah, I think honestly we probably will just end it, because I thought there's gonna be like more to talk about, to be honest. But tomorrow we will do, at some point, a stream dedicated to talking about, well, not just clean, but just normalize grooming in general, or just grooming in general. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I think it might not actually be tomorrow. I think it will be tomorrow. I'll just figure out a time to do that. Probably later. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Really thought there was going to be more to talk about. Also, sorry for the gap in between. I would explain, but I probably shouldn't do it on a live stream. So, anyways, thank you. Have a good night.